You have to question everything, because if we are clearly, and I mean clearly, being lied to in the present moment, well, then what makes you think for a second that you haven't been lied to about the past? Because it is the victors, the ones in control, the winners of the wars, and the people who have maintained the control, the elite over everything this entire time. Well, it's those that write the history books. And it's in controlling the history that they are able to control the future. And if we can recognize now in this present moment the lies, well, then we know that much of what we are being told about our history, there's a really good chance it's also lies. Do you know what one of the most beautiful words are? And I mean just rings beautiful in my ears when I hear it. Vindication. That's right. Vindication. Let's say it all aloud together. Vindication. Because that's what there has been here recently. A vindication. You know, for a long time, people like myself were considered crazy conspiracy theorist. You know, because we had differing opinions on this reality that we all find ourselves in. And because of that, you know, we were cuckoo, a little crazy for thinking the things that we thought, if you even dared to speak them, you know. And, you know, for me, I didn't. For the most part, I mean, I did. I talked about it, you know, around people that I was close with, and, you know, occasionally with people when I would come in contact with them, or if it, you know, came up briefly in a conversation or something, you know, I'd talk about some things occasionally, but not like now. Now I have made a solemn choice to just speak my mind and to just put it all out there, because I recognize that, well, time is short. And if you don't have a voice, what do you actually have? And so, for that reason, yeah, I don't really care anymore. And so, you know, fairly recently here, I've began to talk openly about these things, because what I see out there is a space that seems to be more accepting these days of these new truths that are percolating up to the surface. And it's a beautiful thing to see that happening finally, especially when you've known about these things and have been watching things unfold, leading towards these places that we are currently finding ourselves at here for many, many years. And for me, having to keep your mouth shut for the most part was a little bit challenging, you know, keeping all that in. But, you know, in many ways, that environment has changed, and people are much more accepting of new information, and a lot more people are willing to consider new things. And, you know, a big part of that, I think, is it's just that old way, that old rigid way of thinking that I think in many ways is associated with the boomer generation. Well, that's staying with them. You know, for Gen Xers, you know, we grew up at a unique time where we got to experience some of that and some of the new stuff that was coming up, you know, the age of the information and technology. And so it was through that we were able to learn of the errors and the problems with that old system. And so it was through being uniquely positioned at a time when we could see both sides of the fence that we were able to recognize clearly the problems with this side, and so for that reason, our generation has been the generation, in my opinion, that has woken up first, and it's through us that a lot of other people now are waking up, and hopefully the younger generations, the millennials and the Gen Zers, through our lead and through our exposing of the corruption and the information and the lies that are out there and the darkness, that they are seeing the reality for what it actually is. And so they're able to, take a different approach towards this life. One that's not so controlled and programmed and desensitized and just, all of those things. And so, yeah, I mean, I just think it's a beautiful thing. And I think that vindication has been slowly happening, as different things unfold throughout time, a little bit here, a little bit there. There has been vindication, little wins throughout time here as we march on into the future. These things have been slowly being uncovered, and through that, there has been some vindication, but more so here recently with the release of those files, the release of those files that did it. Because for all the naysayers that just love to throw that conspiracy theory word around and to just slap that label on everybody who seemed to think outside of the box, well, seems as if things have shifted and times have changed, because now a lot of those crazy, kooky things that we were saying, yeah, well, they've been true all along, haven't they? Yeah, they have. And so for that reason, vindication is a beautiful word, and it's more prominent now than ever. But that said, it doesn't correct the wrongs that are in all of that information and the problems with all that information. Knowing about it and having it be exposed, that's one thing. But what do we do with it then? That's a whole nother beast to deal with. And I don't know what that answer is. Hopefully we can begin to work together now. And hopefully, those people that like to be rational thinkers and, whatever they claim to be on their high horses, a lot of them, are now seeing things for what they are. And so hopefully it's through this time, through the release of this type of information, that we can come together and realize that things just aren't as they have seemed. And we've been lied to about a great deal of things in this life. And where that line is drawn, I'm not sure we'll ever know, between where the lies stop, and where the truth begins. Because the fact of the matter is, you have to question everything, because if we are clearly, and I mean clearly, being lied to in the present moment, well, then what makes you think for a second that you haven't been lied to about the past? Because it is the victors, the ones in control, the winners of the wars, and the people who have maintained the control, the elite over everything this entire time. Well, it's those that write the history books. And it's in controlling the history that they are able to control the future. And if we can recognize now in this present moment the lies, well, then we know that much of what we are being told about our history there's a really good chance it's also lies. A lot of it is definitely lies. What we need to do is come together to try and control the information moving forward so that those lies do not progress into the future. Because the books are still being written. Although we cannot change what's written in the history books, if we can recognize the lies now and recognize the lies in the history books, well then as the new books are being written, we can try and control the truth that is progressing forward through the new literature, what's written in the new books, right? The future. That's what it should be all about. And so, yeah, I'm glad people are seeing it for what it is. I've heard a lot of people who were rational thinkers that always, threw that conspiracy theory term around, recently saying, look, I'm sorry, I did them wrong by claiming they were crazy this whole time, because clearly they were right, And so, yeah, I just hope that people can now start to come together and they can realize that us conspiracy theorists, we're not crazy. We're just critical thinkers. And that's what it takes, critical thinking, to make sure that this doesn't continue to happen as we move forward in the future. And so, yeah, anyway, I just wanted to prop up that word. It's a beautiful word, vindication. It is here. Hopefully people are seeing it for what it is. And yeah, let's just do better moving forward. Anyway, like always, sorry about your toes if I stepped on any. This is Thumper, and we're out.